Spartans, Hawkeyes Part 2 coming up this Saturday. We break down that game, what happened last time, and what's going to be different than the last meeting that happened a month ago. And also, what does this mean for seeding purposes just for the NCAA Tournament and the Big Ten Tournament? Let's go.
Are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to, Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white every single day. Before going any further, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Please rate, review, and subscribe as well. I know we're only about a minute into the show, but if we've already blown you away here, smash that subscribe button, please. And if we haven't blown you away yet, well, okay, we got a few more minutes on the clock. Hopefully we can sway you. And, let's just get right into the show here. We got another game coming up this Saturday, and I was just about to say we got another big one coming up, but who are we kidding? This time of the year, every single game is a big one. And, let's just get into it. I'm sorry, I'm rolling my eyes already because, hey, for the sixth straight weekend, let me say that again one more time. The sixth straight weekend, Michigan State is playing a road conference game. Thank you, Big Ten, for your service right there. Good God. Anyway, what happened? Definitely not bitter or salty about that. No. That's great. Six straight. Good God. All right. Last time these two teams faced a month ago in January, Michigan State 63-61 win. It was a beautiful win. Nothing ugly about that. And if you can't hear the sarcasm in my voice, or if you forgot about that game, it was one of the two ugliest wins Michigan State has had this year. It's in between that or their home game against Maryland. I'll let you guys debate which was uglier, but hey, at the end of the day, a win's a win, so we like to hear that. MSU started the game down 10-0. Five guys scored in double figures, and it was a battle of who wants to be worse at the free throw line last game. Michigan State shot 58% from the charity stripe. Iowa shot 46% from the charity stripe. But yeah, that's a little refresher of what happened there before Jaden Akins hit the fadeaway jumper with the shot clock expiring to ice the game for the Spartans. We're not going to talk about Iowa's last possession where they had a wide open look at three-point land. No, we're going to flip the page right here. Since that meeting, Iowa has played 8 games. They are 5-3 ever since that night. And Iowa just doesn't play exciting games whatsoever. Of those 8 games, just one of those games were in single digits. And that's when they beat Illinois by 2 at home. Every other game they've played since visiting East Lansing has been a double-digit game, whether they've won or lost those games. And, there is a really distinct split between what they do at home versus on the road. They've been 1-4 since that stretch on the road. Okay, the only win there was against Minnesota. And then 3-0 at home. They have actually not lost a home game since December 21st. That was against Eastern Illinois, one of the biggest upsets in college basketball this season. They've really turned things around at Carver-Hawkeye Arena ever since that fateful day for Iowa. Now, just like we do with a lot of these previews, we're going to split it up, what they do good, what they do bad. And honestly, it's classic Iowa basketball. They're really good at scoring. Okay, they lead the conference in points per game. On the flip side, they are dead last in points given up per game. So it's classic Iowa basketball here. And just for another year in a row as well, you may already know this name, but it's Chris Murray. That's right, brother of Keegan Murray, who's doing quite well in the NBA. Chris Murray himself doing quite well at Iowa, averaging 20-8. Last game, kind of kept quiet, 11 points, 8 rebounds. But just like the team, just like the team, Chris Murray has a big split between home games and road games when it comes to shooting. He's a 40% three-point shooter at home versus a 28% shooter on the road. And he is coming off of his worst game of his season, just 5 points against Wisconsin not too long ago. But since playing Michigan State, 4 20-plus point games. since playing our Spartans. And I suspect it'll be a lot of the same of what we saw last time these two teams met. Malik Hall, he checked him for most of the game. They gave him a little bit of AJ Hogard as well. So, it's just another case of other team as a star player. We're going to throw the kitchen sink at him, give him some different looks, because Michigan State is blessed enough to have the guys that can give different looks, whether it be Malik Hall, AJ Hogard, maybe even Tyson Walker gets in the mix as well. We've seen him go up against much bigger players than he is this season, so that won't be a difference coming up. Also, what is going well for Iowa? Philip Rebrasha. Hope I'm saying that name right. He's the big man. 16 points, 11 rebounds in the last meeting, and in the last 8 games, 7 of them have been in double figures. He is having a great fifth-year senior season for Iowa. It's just another big man that we got to keep our eye on. Great. Awesome. And another thing that's going well for Iowa is actually, we're going to talk about a Spartan right now, and that's how AJ Hogard usually plays against Iowa. If you remember his last game, it was not pretty from AJ Hogard. He was 3 of 12 from the floor, 3 turnovers, missed a bunny of a layup, missed a game-icing free throw at the very end of the game. Luckily, didn't cost MSU a victory, but in AJ Hogard's 4 games against Iowa, from the field, he is 5 of 25 shooting and 7 turnovers. So, okay, you can look at this 2 ways. Either, Iowa just owns this guy, or if you want to be positive, AJ Hogard is due for a big performance, and, we just saw him come off one Tuesday against Indiana, scoring more than 20 points, having an incredible second half, so maybe that funnels into Saturday's game at Iowa. And, I wrote down, what's something bad that Iowa does. Of course, the defense. God, you could score 100 points against these guys, but I was going to say 3-point shooting, because they are 33% on the season. That is beyond 200th best in the nation. However, is it that bad? Because once again, it's a big difference at home with these guys versus on the road. They are 26% 3-point shooters on the road. At home, though, 38%. So a very respectable clip when they're playing in their home barns. So if those splits keep continuing, and I think the sample size is large enough, Iowa can have themselves a field day from beyond the 3-point arc. Now, what's been different since the last meeting between these two teams? For Iowa, Patrick McCaffrey, he is back. He took a handful of games off in January, dealing with mental health issues, and then has since come back. He's coming off the bench, but really not doing incredible since coming back. He's been fine. He averages 10 points on the season so far, but actually in the 7 games since he has come back, he's not scored 10 or more points since his return. But again, maybe this is his breakout game for him. Maybe MSU puts their resources towards stopping Chris Murray, and then that leaves Pat McCaffrey, another tall, physically imposing guy, open, and maybe he can get hot. I don't know. So that is the big difference for Iowa, is that Patrick McCaffrey is back in action. Bench player ever since. Nothing crazy. But, throughout his career, we've seen him have some pretty big games. So hopefully MSU can limit that coming up. Now for MSU, I got 3 differences written down in front of me. One is that, Pierre Brooks just might be out of the rotation, right? We didn't see him play at all against Michigan. Against Indiana, he got in for, 2-3 minutes, put up a 3, was not close to the rim. So now this late in the season, you're starting to see the lineup that MSU is going to take into March, and it's looking like Pierre Brooks might not be there. He played 12 minutes against Iowa last game, so that's going to be one big difference. Also, Carson Cooper possibly out for this game as well. He missed the Indiana game. He had the boot on his foot, hurt his ankle during practice, and Tom Izzo was a little mum about what to expect as far as return goes for Carson Cooper. He just played 3 minutes last game, but it's safe to say that, Carson Cooper has also grown throughout the season where you could use that depth inside the paint. And the third thing I've written down that's different from the last meeting is that Kohler played 7 minutes, had 0 points, 0 boards. He was really a non-factor in that game. And I think it's safe to say that he's grown a little bit. No, he's not putting up, Kevin Love numbers at UCLA, but he has played well since then. Of course, you could look at Tuesday's game as a shining example of that. So, there you have it. We're going to talk about what this means for NCAA tournament seeding and Big Ten tournament seeding in a hot second. But first, need to talk your ear off about FanDuel Sportsbook. Gang, we're talking about the best sportsbook in America. Spice up your Saturday with the gang over at FanDuel. That's how I spice Tuesday up. I've already talked about it many times, and I'm not done talking about it. Had over Jaden Akins 1.5 3-pointers. We had Joey Hauser 8 rebounds. We also had over 11.5 points, AJ Hoggard points, and then sprinkle some MSU money line on top of that. Oh, your boy was feeling himself on Tuesday. And you can feel yourself too with the no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's right. That is in bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win if you are a new customer. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use, and you get paid instantly. That's right. Tuesday night, win some moolah. It's great. I withdraw the money, and it's already in the account, lickety split. Mr. FanDuel isn't leaving you for days at a time wondering when your money is going to come to you. Nonsense, says FanDuel. They pay you immediately. So don't miss out on your chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so this is the time of year where everyone now starts to look at bracketology. Sick puppies like myself, we've been looking at bracketology since Thanksgiving, and that is a pointless exercise. But now it actually makes sense to do this, as Michigan State has 3 regular season games left, maybe 4 if they reschedule that Minnesota game. Actually, let's talk about that really quick. There's rumors flying around that Minnesota is trying to move a game around with Rutgers at the end of the season to fit Michigan State on the schedule. And that's a lot of moving parts. I've said time and time again that I would actually be pretty surprised if the postponed Minnesota-Michigan State game does get rescheduled. And while it would make sense, for Michigan State, they do have a decent gap between the Nebraska game next week and the Ohio State game next week. They could play in that Thursday. I just don't know how desirable it would be for Rutgers. That's right, because it would be the Minnesota-Rutgers game that has to get moved around. And that would back up Rutgers really close to a game that they have. So I don't know. There are talks being had, but when it comes to Big Ten tournament seeding, stuff like that, I don't know how much this game will matter. For NCAA tournament seeding, it won't matter at all. Minnesota is historically bad this season when it comes to net ranking. Michigan State might be better off just playing Okemos High School other than Minnesota. A win would do nothing for them. A loss would really hurt, actually. But yeah, so that's where we're at with that game. May be being rescheduled, maybe not. So that's the latest. Hey, you know what? Full transparency. We're recording late Thursday afternoon. If something happened late Thursday night and I just jinxed it, sorry about that. But yeah, that's where we stand right now, is that the game is not rescheduled yet, but there's something maybe in the works. I don't know. So what is at stake if Michigan State wins or loses this game on Saturday? So let's talk about the seeding. And let's say Michigan State only plays those 19 conference games. After taking a look at the tiebreaker here, it really isn't even that important that Michigan State gets this Minnesota game on the books, because the first tiebreaker is head-to-head against any other team that you're tied with. And as we talked about on yesterday's show, I think it's 8 teams that have either 7 or 9 losses. There are so many teams bunched together right now that having just one head-to-head tiebreaker doesn't even seem likely. But even when it's more than 2 teams, they do go with a kind of a round robin. All right, what was your records against each other? And then the next tiebreaker is, all right, well, what's your record against the highest team? Okay, Purdue, what's your record against them? And then they'll go down. What's your record against Northwestern, Rutgers? And they'll work your way down until there's a tiebreaker. And if you get down far enough, the win-loss percentage against Division I opponents is what's going to be the tiebreaker when it comes to seeding. Actually, we didn't see this happen all too long ago. The COVID year Big Ten tournament, where, Michigan didn't play the most games that year, but they still got the 1 seed based on all the tiebreakers, even though Illinois won more games that season. So we're going to be borrowing a lot of tiebreakers from that year, it looks like, when it comes to the Minnesota game, if it doesn't get rescheduled. So with that said, a win puts Michigan State in the driver's seat for a double bye. That's right. Being one of those top 4 seeds that gets you playing on Friday instead of Thursday, or dare I say even Wednesday. So it's not a Michigan State controls their own destiny thing, though. They still can win out and miss out on that double bye. Now, if I was to go through every scenario for that to happen, you'd be listening to me until next Tuesday. There's 1,000 things that could still happen here. But it would be most likely if Michigan State wins out that they do get that double bye. Not guaranteed, but most likely. Again, so much has to happen. So that's what's at stake for Michigan State on Saturday, because if they lose on Saturday, it's not impossible, but getting that double bye is very, very, very hard. They would need just a whirlwind of things to happen, including like a lot of Michigan wins. So let's just avoid that altogether. Let's just win on Saturday. So yeah, a win puts MSU kind of in the driver's seat for a double bye, and a loss makes it all but impossible to get that double bye. They still would be slated for Thursday, I believe. And there would be also, there is a chaos option too, where MSU ends up playing on Wednesday, but they would have to lose out, and even more chaos around them would have to happen. Let's not even get into that. For NCAA tournament seeding, what would this mean? This is a quad one win opportunity coming up, and Michigan State already has 8 quad one wins, which is remarkable so far this season. So if they could tack on even another one, okay, don't pull my arm. Now, BartTorvik.com. You hear us reference this website all the time. They have this fun little tool where you can plug in. All right, let's say MSU loses on Saturday, beats Nebraska, beats Ohio State, wins the first round Big Ten tournament game, but then loses the second one. I say that scenario because as far as like gambling odds go, that's odds or the most likely scenario to happen. Lose against Iowa, win your last 2 regular season, win the first Big Ten tournament game, lose the second one. If that sequence happens, if it's all chalk the rest of the season, BartTorvik.com says Michigan State would be a 7 seed. Now, let's say MSU wins the first 3, okay, or wins Iowa, Nebraska, Ohio State, and then wins the first Big Ten tournament game and then loses the second. They would be right on the cusp of the 7 seed or the 6 seed. So a win here just doesn't do good things for Big Ten tournament standings, but also it brings Michigan State closer to that 6 seed line. Again, they would have to win 4 in a row starting on Saturday, or I guess 5 in a row if you want to count the Indiana game. But hey, you know what? We talked about this on yesterday's show too, about seeding for everything, March Madness, all that good stuff. But someone did comment, because we didn't talk about the scenario if MSU just wins out all the way to the Big Ten tournament championship game. And I'm sorry for being a negative Nancy. I didn't even consider that to be an option, but we plug that into BartTorvik.com. Let's say MSU wins at Carver-Hawkeye Arena. Let's say they beat Nebraska, they beat Ohio State, they win their 3 Big Ten tournament games, and they lift the trophy. What seed would Michigan State be according to Bart Torvik? Drum roll, in case you want to guess. A 4 seed. Bart Torvik says they would get the last 4 seeds, so it'd be right on that line of a 4 seed or a 5 seed. And let's say MSU, gets that tournament title game after winning their last 3 or 4 regular season games, but loses in the title game. It would be a 5 seed. So yeah, if MSU can go on a run here, a pretty nice seed still waits for them come March. So there you have it. Hopefully we didn't confuse anyone along the way there. Yeah, because that's a lot of numbers flying your way, a lot of scenarios. But yeah, if you ever want to fiddle around with it, BartTorvik.com. I do it at least 3 times a day. It's a really sick obsession, but hey, that's what we are here to do. So hey, until then, you guys know where to find us. Locked on Spartans. That's right. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Maybe you found this really enjoyable. Maybe you didn't. Subscribe anyway if you're in a good mood. Really do appreciate you. So yeah, until then, hey, we will be back probably Saturday afternoon with the video recapping on what happens at Iowa. But until then, love you all. Go Green.